Mr. Kevin Donahue.
Mr. Dean Jackson.
Welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast,
I love it.
live to tape, as they say. Look at us. So, have you been on the podcast before?
Not this one. I don't think so.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, that's great because I know you've been to how many breakthrough blueprints have you been to? Two or three?
Yeah, about that.
All right. So, we spend the whole hour and we're
Yeah.
just evil scheming about applying the profit activators to whatever you are working on now. I always love to see the different iterations because you are a creative thinker and you've done some cool things. So maybe we'll start and maybe do a little introduction.
You and me, old pals, talking. I
Yeah,
love it. I
that's
love
what
it.
it is. It doesn't feel, I don't, it doesn't feel like a podcast. It's just we're literally here to hatch evil schemes for you.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Kevin Donahue, and I'm currently a founder, CEO, head of business development for a company called Stealth Family. And what we've done at Stealth Family, my partner, I have two partners. One is a former FBI supervisory agent from the Cyber Task Force, retired. And my other partner is a guy named Wayne Halper. His name is Scott Augenbaum. And Wayne Halper is our basically in-house counsel partner. He's a kind of legendary music attorney. Was the first in-house counsel at Capitol Records here. Was the first attorney at DreamWorks Records. Signed everyone from Garth Brooks to Randy Travis. You name it. Everyone knows Wayne in Nashville. He's been here since '87. Something he didn't like me to share when we're on a meeting, but he was also the attorney for Rick James on the Super Freak tour back in
Oh my
1980.
goodness.
Anyway, he's that guy. He makes sure all our contracts are all that. But what we do, Dean, is we have a focus. Our niche is high net worth individuals. On this call, we could probably narrow that down quite a bit.
Mhm.
But what we've done is we've taken a enterprise cybersecurity solution and we now offer it to individuals, their families. Our kind of our motto is how do you protect your most important asset, your family, right?
Mhm.
Like with the threat of sexploitation, with the threat that's always coming after elderly people, in
Mhm.
senior assisted living facilities, and a threat that's constantly coming after you and I.
Mhm.
What are you going to do to protect yourself? And the key for us is prevention, which is education. Part of that's education, but how do you keep the bad guys at bay? To give a larger context, everyone understands the cybersecurity threat. What we see in the news are typically things about China or Russia. That those
Mhm.
aren't the
All
folks
the
that are coming
bad
after,
actors. Right.
right?
Yeah.
Bad actors, but they're always nation states. And
Mhm.
that's not who's coming after you and me, right? There's entire organized crime rings, entire office buildings in places like Bangladesh and India and Nigeria.
Right.
Hell, probably here in the US as well, but not so much because outside of the US, there's no jurisdiction for law enforcement to
Right.
go after these people. So they have entire office buildings. Like you go to work, but these people are committing crimes. And
Mhm.
they're using the dark web where they
And there's a
get,
leaderboard. And
yeah, right. There's
all the Western motivational things they bring over there.
the posters.
Yeah,
You can do it.
exactly. Yeah.
No, it's true. And these
Mhm.
people are really good at what they do. And they're always a couple steps ahead. And, we all get those text messages, we all get the emails, the phishing, the text messages are called smishing. But there's all these other things out there that these sneaky, sneaky criminals do. There's things called quishing, which is QR code phishing. People
Oh,
just use their QR code all the time. You got to
yeah.
park. Well, you don't know if a cyber criminal put up a sticker over that thing, and now your QR code is you're sending your money or your credit card or your information to someone who's a bad actor. So
Mhm.
anyway, the point of Stealth Family was to provide a solution to this group of people. We don't just focus on high net worth. We focus on pretty much that's our focus, but we also cater to families as well. We have
Mhm.
sort of a lower end solution. And then we
Mhm.
do have an enterprise solution for executives, board members, and these types of folks. This became very popular, especially after that healthcare CEO up in New York was assassinated by that guy.
Mhm.
Suddenly executives like, oh man, they can get my information on me, my family, my whereabouts, my home address off the dark web, off these data broker sites. So we created the solution. And what's interesting, Dean, and I think one of the things we can drill down on is we've entered into a market, and it's a relatively new marketplace from the standpoint of banks and healthcare and big companies. They have certain requirements, certain
Hmm.
mandates, certain laws, like healthcare, it's HIPAA. The banks have GLBA. They have to keep your information and their money safe. So they have big teams and technology and multi-million dollar budgets.
Yeah.
But people forget about their home. Everything at
Hmm.
your home is online now. Not only that, everywhere you go, you bring the bad guys with you. I mean,
Hmm.
anywhere you have cellular access, they have access to you and your kids, right? And your home, the Internet of Things, your microwave oven, your dishwasher, your garage door opener, your
Hmm.
vehicle. These things are all connected to the internet or Wi-Fi
Hmm.
or whatever it may be. And when was the last time you updated your HVAC systems technology? And probably never,
Hmm.
right? We set it and
Right.
forget it. And
Right.
your information is going to be for sale online, and people could access all of your data,
Yeah.
you know, through some weird connection, through your router, through your Tesla, whatever it may be, right? And what people need to understand too, and one of the things we can talk about and is the average hacker is in your system 6 to 18 months before they take action. They're watching, they're
Searching,
learning,
watching,
yeah,
gathering.
they're
Yeah.
lurking.
Uh-huh.
And so they're waiting for a prime time when you're about to buy a
Yeah.
house. Oh, let's get between them and the title company, or let's
Yeah.
get between them and the
Let's get
bank,
that
or
wire transfer to go to our account instead of to the escrow company.
we get the
Right.
call Dean,
Yeah.
the
No,
calls are
listen,
on.
so I do a lot of stuff with real estate agents, as you know,
Yeah.
and one of our realtors had a situation where they were they sold a $2 million house for the clients. They were buying a $5 million beach house and literally they had some intercepted. They were literally like moments away from pressing send to transfer the wire transfer for the money a to the wrong person. They were trying to
Yes.
be hacked in that, and
Very
somebody
lucky that didn't go, because
caught it.
here's the
Yeah,
problem. Yeah, once the money's gone, it's gone. There's no
that's
recovering it.
exactly it. That's what I mean. They were like moments away from that 5 million being gone with no
Yeah.
refund. Yeah.
Well, and we're working with a current client here in Nashville, high net worth family, and they had a total takeover. Their cell
Mm,
phones, everything. They were very, very fortunate. And it's hard to explain to someone how fortunate they are when their entire world is shut down, right? Like
mhm,
meaning their
mhm,
mobile phones, their internet at home, everything's been compromised.
mhm.
But they're bankers, they're private bankers, thankfully. And these people had their code words, their passwords,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And the private banker somehow stopped it. And it was very, very fortunate. So now we're helping them remediate and then helping them kind of set up for future attacks. But
yeah.
that's where it gets very expensive. We're talking 25
Mhm.
to $100,000. It's almost like your house burns down, right? Like, except it's your technology world and you have to
Right.
rebuild. And that's kind of what they're doing again.
Yeah.
And our recommendation was get rid of any device you've had in the past, get rid of your cell phone providers, start fresh, get new numbers, get rid of your laptops, and we're going to set up a firewall in your home, an enterprise grade firewall, and protect you moving forward. And then educating them on all the different tricks and all the things you can notice. So
Mhm.
anyway, that's the business that I'm currently in. If you want to take it back a
Right.
little bit, I've sort of been this consummate entrepreneur idea guy,
Right.
like you mentioned. I always see myself as the influencer to influencers, like as
Yeah.
I worked a lot with Joe Polish, helped him grow the Genius Network and what was the Platinum 2.0. And I actually helped
Yeah.
Joe turn the Platinum 2.0 to the 100K group, right? Like
Yeah.
I see myself as someone who I think, how do I go from Honda to Ferrari? Like, how do we get
Mhm.
to zero? That's sort of my salesman.
Mhm.
Before that, I come from Washington, D.C. originally. Used to work with the White House, Homeland Security, CIA, FBI, Secret Service, you name it. In D.C., I used to sell a search engine, but I called it a
Oh,
forensic
good.
investigative search
Forensic.
engine and
Yeah.
was able to dominate a marketplace. There wasn't an investigation or intelligence thing.
Category of one. There's no forensic search engine. Oh,
That's
that's
right.
yeah.
That's got to be a
Hmm.
popular term now,
Yeah.
but being a forensic search person back then was different. And so, but I left DC years ago, moved to Costa Rica, came back. That's when I started working with Joe. That's when I met you. And I've been in the skincare business, had a direct response skincare business online. I had a company called Neuro Performance Academy after my concussion. I actually wrote a book with you called Concussion
Hmm.
Transformation, which, by the way, I was on a podcast 2 weeks ago called Life After Impact. And I think that book has been downloaded probably 1,000 times all over the world. And I would get lots of thank
Hmm.
you notes from, Concussion
Yeah.
Transformation book. And so, yeah, I'm always thinking about, I'm an idea guy. That's why I always have to partner with someone who's an execution guy or
Hmm.
gal. And so,
Hmm.
this company has been around about a year and a half. We've had some initial really good success. And then we started sort of chasing after the ultra high net worth uh,
Hmm.
families. And that we partnered with another company, fell apart. So it kind of took us off track, which is also important to understand your niche and dominate that niche before you get off track
Yeah.
and start to pursue other things.
I
Uh,
remember so much of like that. If I think about that category, the one that comes to mind, of course, is LifeLock, that which is a great name. I don't know, I don't see as much about them as I do as I used to, and maybe that's just I've blindness
they were
about it. But
bought, they were bought by McAfee or one of the big companies.
oh, okay, so
So
that's
now
it.
it's
That's why.
McAfee LifeLock. Yeah. So they're still around.
God.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But LifeLock on its own. I remember the guy that was they would put billboards, right, with his social security number on there. Almost like, go ahead, I dare you, like try, just
Brilliant.
try. I'm so confident that here's my social security number. Go ahead,
Hmm.
So I'm curious. This is reminding me there's a attorney in Ohio, Alex Gertzberg. He wrote a book that was called Cover Your Six. But it became, I think, something similar to the lawsuit proof company.
Sure.
And the basic thing was his idea was that there's only six people who can sue you, as a business owner. You can get sued by a partner, by an employee, by a supplier, by a customer, or the government, or one more. And I can't remember what the sixth
Right.
one is. But essentially, it was like I think when you break those down into here's how to protect yourself against those things. If we were saying this same thing about the threats. What are the six biggest threats or the seven biggest threats, or are there a fixed number of ways that people could damage you, or
That's
that
great.
could.
It's great because, in fact, we talk about, when we look at a company, like a chief information security officer, he has one job, and that's to protect the assets, meaning the
Mhm,
money, the data, customer data, employee data, all of this. And
mhm.
there, and I have a friend here locally who's a CISO, and we went to a fort. It's a fort just south of Nashville. It was a Union fort
CISO,
from the
oh, Chief Security Officer.
chief information security
Oh,
officer. Yeah.
Information Security Officer. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he took us to a fort just south of Nashville. It was a Union fort after the Union took over
Yeah.
Nashville in 1862, whenever it was.
Mhm,
And he said, I take my employees here and I show them we have to defend our company the same way they defended the city, right? From a fort. And
mhm,
the fort is star shaped. And there's a reason for that. And I forget the exact reason. But you're right. And so a company has supply chains, right? No matter
mhm,
what company you are, you have a supply chain that provides information for you, supplies, ingredients, whatever it may be. And I tell people this that you have a supply chain too in your family where
mhm,
you get your haircut. Costco is going to be one of your suppliers,
mhm,
your bank, your credit card information, everything in life, the school your kids go to. That's part of
mhm.
your family supply chain. So it's really interesting, this concept you just mentioned, cover your six.
Yeah, I
Like,
like that. I'm writing this
it,
down. The supply
yeah,
chain is That's great because if you think about it, everywhere, everybody who has your contact information and your credit card on file and your whatever information, they could have
yes,
different things. Some people may just have your contact info. Some people have your stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And one of the ways to cover your six, I went to a chiropractor yesterday. And they want you to give you all their information. And there's a HIPAA
Hmm.
thing. They're required by law to protect your personal
Hmm.
information for HIPAA
Yeah.
regulations and all that. But I don't trust them. So
Hmm.
part of covering your six as far as Stealth Family goes, and we talk about this, is creating an alias. I don't use my real birthday,
Hmm.
for that one. For some, you have to, right? When you're doing
Hmm.
health insurance or certain things. I have two phone numbers, right? And so, and I only give the secondary, I give the secondary phone number. I have basically a trash old Hotmail email I use. So like these are one of the ways I cover my six from
Hmm.
my supply chain
Hmm.
because this family I just mentioned who got totally devastated. The hacker used their email, and these are very high net worth people with very high net worth network, sent out a ransomware email from the wife, and everyone opened it, everyone clicked on it. Hey, check out this proposal. What do you think? And then now she embarrassment, shame, humiliation, like, and she walks around with this. I tell people the threat of cybersecurity or being hacked isn't just the monetary loss. It's like you getting broken into or you get robbed on the street. There's an emotional toll that
Hmm.
follows you. You're afraid. You walk around afraid for years. But understanding your own personal supply chain, and I told them you can go back and think about what it might have been. You might have clicked on something. I said, but the fact is, it might not be you. It could be someone in your supply chain. Great clips. If you go there to get your haircut, you get on their waiting list and they have your phone number, your email, they have your name. It's sitting there. Hey, Kevin Donahue, ready in 10 minutes. And that's convenient.
Ah,
But everyone's sitting there in the getting waiting to get their haircut is sitting there seeing your name, seeing your kid's name.
yeah,
And
yeah,
how trustworthy is the person working there at the haircuttery or whatever the haircut place may be? And not only
the hair
that,
cuttery.
have the hackers already gotten in there too and are just collecting your data because they're sitting in their system as well. So, the threat is ever present and everywhere we
Yeah.
go. So this is part of it is like, how do you protect your six or seven or eight? It's
Yeah,
actually,
whatever that's the mindset. That's why I was asking, is I wonder if those things are, um, if there's something that could be um, categorized. Like, I think if you look at that, is this vein of vulnerability that you have is that whoever has your thing. I was just looking up the word that came to me was a family fortress,
right.
but it's taken and being used. But this idea of I imagine it's like creating this core ultimate thing that's hidden behind layers of aliases or intermediaries that you're
Yeah.
using to protect
Well,
the actual core.
and part of it is just being aware.
Hmm.
Because most people are just unaware. They don't
Hmm.
understand QR code phishing. They've never
Yeah,
heard of it. They don't understand the latest scam. So
yeah.
they're just going through life acting as if nothing's wrong or, just behaving normally and giving out their information. But once you're aware, you start to see things, because even
Hmm.
I've been in cybersecurity 4 or 5 years now, both on the enterprise side and this business as well. And I still almost get scammed. I'll see something, I'm expecting a package, and I'll get a text message saying, hey, your UPS tag package is delivered. Click here. It's tempting because it's not that these people are technical geniuses, Dean. They're
Right.
marketing geniuses. They're
Yeah, well,
emotional
it's
geniuses.
really, it's behavioral psychology genius.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what drives everything.
And they
So,
make it all cheese. Think about
yeah,
cheese versus
of
whiskers. These
course.
people are geniuses at
Yeah.
this. Like, hey, here's a
Yeah,
free
yeah.
this.
Yeah. Um, so that's an interesting thing. What else kind of category wise comes to mind if you're thinking about supply chain, that there's that everybody that you voluntarily give your information to or who has it, whether they're required to or not. I like this idea of creating an alias, even if you use your same name kind of thing. And the visual I'm thinking is like this set of Kevin Donahue nesting dolls. That the real one is in here, but there's these
Yeah.
layers
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
outside, right? Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And I
But
misspelled my name. It was Donahue. I'll do Donohoe. And
uh,
I'll know when I get an email from someone, or if I get, it'll say, okay, this is someone I don't want to.
right.
I picked up a sandwich last week from Potbelly sandwiches, right?
Mhm.
And hey, put your name in and come in and pick it up. And I gave him a totally fake name, my secondary number, and you
Mhm.
just have to be aware of that. And even the big companies, like if you own an Audi, I can pull up your name, number, your address. If you've ever had a vehicle service at Audi dealership, I have your information. It's on the dark web in a form
Mhm.
for sale. So it's like, and even the government gets hacked all the time. So,
Mhm.
it's not that your information's for sale, no matter how nested you are in these nesting dolls. It's just
Mhm.
about how do you protect yourself from being a
Mhm.
victim. That's why prevention is the key.
So I wonder, yeah, so it's like it's too late to do anything about who already has it, who
Right.
already has your thing. So the best thing you can do is protect yourself around what they could or recognize what when it's happening. Aside from, I'd love to brainstorm some of the ones aside from the supply chain, what would be some other main categories that people have access to, or where I don't know whether they're vulnerabilities or whether they are, vulnerabilities seems like a good word, or open,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's what we call it, a vulnerability assessment. Like when we take on a new
yeah,
client, we do what we call a penetration test or a vulnerability assessment.
uh-huh,
We want to take a look at, hey, how open is your
yeah,
access?
right,
This is now banks do this on a regular basis. We would do penetration tests and do physical penetration tests, meaning we'd have a pizza delivery guy, like you'd see in the movie, go into the bank and say, hey, someone ordered pizza to see how far they could get in without an access badge. Like we would
hmm
actually do that. But we do the same thing with homes and families and the family office. It's like, what is your vulnerability point? And it's always shocking how wide open these folks are. You know,
hmm
and it's becoming more and more. Here's the other thing, Dean. I mentioned these major criminal networks overseas and Eastern
hmm
Europe, wherever they may be, but also the average 14-year-old now can learn how to be a hacker and get ransomware as a service off the dark web for $50 a month. So the
hmm
14, 15-year-old in your neighborhood who's a gamer who wants to come, looks around the neighborhood, sees who's rich. Oh, I'm just going to hack that house and try to get between them and their next transaction.
hmm
And I think the big one too is are the assisted living facilities. I think this is going to be a level of care that they're going to have to offer as a
hmm
part of the service of care is sort of a cybersecurity option where it's, hey, because the stories we hear are heartbreaking. Because
hmm
this elderly woman gets an email from her facility, same logo, same everything, same name. It says,
oh,
hey, you're 7 months behind on rent. If we don't get payment this week, we're gonna have to put all your stuff out in the curb. And that's instantly, you talk about emotions, it's like
yeah,
this woman took a taxi or Uber, whatever it was, to the Chase Bank to get $17,000 out. And the first bank said, this is suspicious. So she took another 30 minutes, went to another Chase Bank 30 minutes away to get the $17,000, had it in a paper bag and delivered to some guy at Walmart in a Walmart parking lot. I know. I mean, it's like,
I mean, holy
yeah,
cow, it's
right.
amazing that people would fall for that.
All the time.
There's a show that was on TV in the UK called The Real Hustle. Have you seen those? It's on YouTube. There's a lot of them, and they basically show all these ways, all these con things
Oh,
that
I think I've
people
seen
do.
that. Did they do
Yeah,
that like near the
it's a little squad of three or four of them, and they do these hustles to show you, like
yeah.
they'd go to an airport, pull up as a van and take your bags and drop you off at the hotel or whatever, and then take off, or they take your bags and oh, there's another shuttle coming to get you or whatever, and they
Uh,
take off with all the bags and you're left standing there. It's just kind of there's so many clever ways that people do this.
Well, and it's
Is
it's everyday psychology too, like you mentioned. You're at the airport, you think it's a safe place, you trust people. A guy shows up in a, nice looking shirt or a uniform in a van. It seems like the right thing to do. And this is where you have
exactly.
to have this awareness, this
Yeah,
situational awareness, and
yes,
almost assume that someone's trying to rip you off a little bit,
yeah,
especially in the
yeah,
cyber world, right?
yes, yes. And that's kind of this thing. I like this. I've had this little playbook that I've been using as a word thing is, wherever people say, the seven biggest cyber security mistakes people make or whatever, I've been using and replacing biggest mistakes with avoidable surprises.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it
Great.
changes the whole dynamic of it, right? So if you
Yeah.
say to somebody seven avoidable surprises
Right.
that cost avoidable, yeah, that hackers use to steal your money or whatever the outcome is, right? The original one that I did it with was three avoidable surprises that derail even the most cautious retirement plans. And
Right.
what those things, because most people would do is say three biggest mistakes people make in retirement planning, which
Right.
sounds direct responsey, but it's also lazy and people write it off as a cliche kind of thing. And nobody
Yes.
wants to admit that they would even make them. I'm not going to make any mistakes. I've got this thing. So when you say avoidable surprises, and nobody expects a surprise. You can't blame anybody for getting taken by surprise.
Yes.
But when you put avoidable in front of it, an avoidable surprise, and there's three avoidable surprises, now it's your fault. If this, it's
Yeah.
like you had the opportunity to know about, wouldn't you want to at least know what these avoidable surprises are? And we
Yeah.
use the word derail as of, the perfect thing for people being on track. We're on track to retire
Yes.
at
Yes.
65. Well, you don't want to get derailed on that. And then cautious instead of conservative, right? Even the most cautious retirement plans.
Right.
And that is such a like meaning dense word collection, right? That every word was parsed for the exact emotional meaning. And I think that there's something here that could be in that same way.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying if you were to position those things as avoidable surprises,
Yes. It's
um,
exactly what they are. And it's funny because people start looking at what did I do wrong?
mhm,
Because now they're suddenly in this avoidable surprise. And they're like thinking back, what did I do wrong? What did I click? Oh, maybe it was from this, maybe it was from that. And so they're looking at what mistake they made,
yeah,
right? I comfort them. It's like you probably did nothing wrong.
right,
It could have
yeah,
gotten this this avoidable surprise could have come from the place you got your hair cut. Like I try to
yeah,
simplify it down to that. It could have come from
surprise,
Amazon,
yeah,
right? It's a surprise. I mean, it's a avoidable surprise is right. And the thing is, and here's the challenge that we have, Dean. We get the panic call because people are now living in that avoidable surprise and they're devastated. But our entire goal is to prevent being a
hmm
victim of an avoidable surprise. That's our
yes,
main goal. But people
yeah.
don't take action so far, and this is what we need to figure out as a
Mm.
business. And it reminds me of Joe Polish. Your good friend Joe Polish, my mortal enemy Joe Polish. Just kidding. You're a good friend of my mortal enemy. Just kidding. We love Joe. No, but it reminds me of the carpet cleaning. Joe's
Yeah,
genius came from the consumer's guide to
yeah,
finding the right carpet cleaner and the seven boogeymen, whatever it was, creeping
yeah,
and crawling through your carpet. And it's the same thing here. Like
yes,
I have to download his consumer guide because we have the creepy crawling lurking in your
yeah,
system right now. They're in your
yeah.
system right now, Dean. Like they are. So what can you do now? Like what is it that we could provide that people take action instead of being a victim?
I'm covering my camera in
Right,
case.
exactly. You're so like I'm gonna be like one of those mentalists. Okay, your
Yeah.
PIN number is 456.
Uh-huh, right. Yeah.
No, but it's like, how do we get people to take action and spend money beforehand?
Yeah.
This is what we're working on right now, by the way, a pricing
Hmm.
structure that makes sense. We're working with some private bankers and some of high net worth families, and also
Okay.
some financial advisors to be able to provide the education up front
Hmm.
because it's going to cost them 25 to 100,000 to fix the problem. It can cost them as little as it'll cost between 13,000 a year to 1,200 a year, depending on the level of solution they're willing to
Mm-hmm.
take on to avoid
Mm-hmm.
the problem and to keep their
Mm-hmm.
family and their net worth safe. So,
Mm-hmm.
but people kind of have, it seems they have their head in the sand a little bit. Most people do. They're either
Mm-hmm.
unaware or just willfully ignorant.
Would you say is yeah, that's an interesting thing. I heard somebody talk about it. And usually do it anyway, but people I've heard about people who make a conscious choice never to use their debit card. They always use a credit card because that debit card is tied directly to your bank account. And if people take that money out of there, that's your money. But if somebody breaches your credit card, it's the credit card company's money.
Yeah.
And they do that for paying even anything that needs to be paid. They never do like any direct deposit stuff from their bank account.
It makes sense.
I mean, it's an interesting.
Now, most debit cards are covered by Visa's similar policy to credit cards. But yeah, it is smarter to use the credit card because you're completely insured. In fact, this last client, I mean, they got all their credit cards got hacked, spent, and they're not
Mm,
going to pay a dime out of that.
yeah.
So they're safe there. And the credit that is like another insurance policy
Hmm.
on top
Hmm.
of, and that's kind of what the LifeLock people did. It was basically an insurance policy. That's all it was. There's
Hmm.
lots of margins in insurance.
Hmm.
The problem is it did nothing to actually protect you. Nothing. Like it didn't have
Hmm.
any of the protocols or anything to actually protect you. It just said, hey, if this happens and you lose money or data, we'll pay for it. Which you almost never know unless you lose a lot of money. You kind of never know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Um, so is there anything else like that would be another sort of category? I'm curious about this, like if we were going to do that same kind of thing, like putting or if you could sum it up in like, if you were advising me, like with what you've seen,
Mhm.
is what would you say are the three or five things that would be like, this is the action kind of thing that you need to,
Yeah, don't give your kids a mobile device
no
or
mobile device for your
gaming
kids.
console until they've
Mm,
been educated with our training program. Sit down with them
mhm.
and actually, you don't give your kids the key to the car without them having taken some driving training or understanding the rules of the road. You
Yeah.
should give them a mobile device where they instantly have access and more importantly, the world has access to them instantly.
Hmm.
And so if they're
Yeah.
not, it's no longer stranger danger. When you and I grew up, it was like, hey man, the guy in the white, be careful of that creepy guy
There's
over
no
there.
kittens in the van.
There's no kittens in the van. Like
Right.
this one lady in our neighborhood, you say, oh, the ice cream man's a communist. Don't buy ice cream from him. Like she
Right.
was, I was like, you're crazy. But it's no longer stranger danger. These people online are showing up and getting access to your kids through the apps, through AI. They're looking
Mhm.
like you, they're sounding like you. They're stealing your kid's voice, their pictures. They're reaching out to their grandmother, grandfather with their voice and their picture saying, hey, I need help.
Oh,
So
and talk about, I mean, AI now has got to be a nightmare of making these, it could sound just like grandma or your
just like,
grandkids. Yeah.
listen, so Scott wrote a paper recently called The Intersection of Artificial Intelligence and Social Engineering. And that's really that psychology we're talking about, social engineering. How do you get someone to
Hmm.
give you something, give you their bags at the airport and just take off with them?
Hmm.
How do you,
Hmm.
every con man is a social engineer. They're using social
Yeah.
dynamics to be able to take from someone. But that's also, salesmanship is also social engineering. It's just doing the right thing for the right people.
I
Um,
had a guy that worked for me he got ripped off in Toronto. They had somebody was at mall. They had a little table, like a folding table. It was like a kiosk or whatever, and they had these stacks of notebook of computers that they were selling. and they were in boxes and shrink wrapped on the thing, but he had one as a display one that he was showing so people could play around with the thing, and then you could buy the display, or you buy one of the shrink wrap, protect the unopened ones, right? And so he bought one and got it home, opened up the box, and it was just a bunch of newspapers
Oh my
in the thing that weighed the same as what one of these laptops. So it felt like you're getting the thing, but it was they took the thing of making the box, putting in just paper that made it feel like it was a real laptop and shrink wrapping it for your protection. Like this
God.
is an unopened, sealed box straight from the manufacturer. Just
Yes.
so crazy, right? That you feel confident that this one hasn't been tampered with or this one
Right.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
give me
geniuses.
one of those ones that's unopened, unsealed.
Right. I'll
Yeah.
pay extra for that one.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so I think that is one of them is kids are most vulnerable. I mean,
Hmm.
something right now called sexploitation, which is rampant. And what happens is these young people, think they're talking to a girl from a local high school or, across the country or wherever, and they're attracted to her. And at some point, it looks like a pretty girl. It's actually a couple guys in Nigeria say, "Hey, could you send us a naked picture or video?" And they do. And instantly they come under attack. And they'll get
Mm,
hundreds of, "Hey, if you don't send us money, you're going to go to jail for child porn. We're going to tell your parents. We're going to post this on social media." And the kids
hmm.
panic and they go get as much money or their parents' credit card and they send it off.
Yeah,
So, you got to look at all vulnerabilities. You mentioned before, like a fortress, you have to
yeah,
look at all vulnerabilities. And kids are the most vulnerable because they're
yeah.
unaware, and they're easily tricked because they don't have the world, the worldly experience. So I think that's one of that sort of not supply chain, but one of those things, cover your six. It would
Hmm.
be, hey, have you educated your children? Even your Ring doorbell camera, have you updated that recently?
Right.
Because hackers can get in through your Ring doorbell camera and watch
Yeah,
your neighborhood.
yeah.
Another one that happens not fairly often, but we've seen is you'll get a text message with a picture of your home and say, "Hey, if you don't send us money, we're gonna," and then we saw one, it probably came from some cartel somewhere. It was like they showed like a bloody body, like a dead body, and a picture
Mm,
of your home, your super nice home, and it's like, "Hey, send us money or else." And it's like these are just these things that you have to understand that they don't have access to your home, they don't have access to your, but they're, it's all trying to give you the fear.
hmm. So what's your best marketing approach now? How do you find people, and what's the path to somebody becoming a client?
Yeah, so in the past, it's been people who've been ripped off. Some, very rarely are they proactive,
Hmm.
but it's mostly through education. So it's education marketing. We educate people and then we tell them the threats, but usually it's people who've been victimized. And so
Hmm.
those are people who we get the panic phone call because the other thing too, Dean, is there's no 911 for these types of things. You call 911 and say, "Hey, I just got my money stolen because I'm a real estate agent. I transferred all my money to the wrong person."
Yeah.
The sheriff can't help you. Fireman
Hmm.
can't help you. You call the feds, wait in
Hmm.
line. It'll be several years before they get to you. And you better have
Hmm.
at least a $250,000 loss or more.
Hmm.
So what happens, the way we see it now is we're almost like the 911. It's like people know who we are. They know who Scott is specifically. He was the special agent in charge of the cyber task force here in Nashville, but he was
Hmm.
also in headquarters with the FBI and up in Syracuse. So he's got quite the reputation. We get a lot of speaking engagements, community banks,
Hmm.
but our focus more recently has been, the little hinges that swing big doors, the people that have
Hmm.
access to the high net worth individuals, the celebrities, these types of folks whose family is most at
Hmm.
risk for a loss or any kind of threat. So,
Hmm.
CAA is a big entertainment agency. They're here
Hmm.
locally. I've spoken to them. We
Yeah.
have a private banker at one of the big banks here locally.
Yeah.
Uh, some of the financial advisors were doing some education. We pitched this financial advisor, big financial advisor here in Nashville. And we said, "Hey, why don't you?" And we had put together a program that he could be able to cover all, let's say, 500 clients, or his 100 top clients. but there was some sort of regulation. I forget the regulating body, if it's FARA or what for the financial advisors. They could
Mhm,
only spend up to, I think, $100 per year per client without, because then it becomes inducement or something like this,
mhm,
maybe. But we're gonna do some educational webinars with them as
mhm,
well. But again, it's almost like very few people take action in advance. It's always in reaction to something.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, right? Like that, it's kind of like I've been doing some work with a home warranty company, and I've used that avoidable. So, yeah, I think it was we cover 18 avoidable costly repairs, saving homeowners thousands of dollars each year. That was the articulation, right? Like of the things, and we had all of the 18 things that they cover, and I had a chart of the expected life of each of those components
Mm,
and when they typically break down. And most of them, we had a 20-year, 1 to 20 years, and most of the things are in the 7 to 15 year thing where they start to break. So we had a chart that showed the danger zone kind of thing of where each of these components are. And if you look at it clearly, it's like this 7 to 12 year period is where the most of these things are going to happen. So by targeting people who are living in homes that were built 7 years ago, we go to those people and say, basically, listen, you've gotten away with it this long, but you're coming into the hot zone.
right.
And you look at your who are you going to call if your water heater breaks, if your refrigerator needs repair, your plumbing, your HVAC, your any of these things, they're coming up on the danger zone, and it's
Yeah.
a pretty clear thing. But you have to make it, you have to build the case because it's prevention, is
Right.
that just like warranties are not, I think the general consensus, like any kind of warranties, is that, oh, it's just a money grab, that's how they get you. Like when you're buying your thing at Best Buy, do you want the
Mhm.
protection package or whatever? And most people just like, no, they're taking their chances kind of thing, right? Or they're
Right.
resistant to it, that you're not going to fool me. You're not going to get me,
Yes.
right? That they look
Yeah.
at it, that it's kind of like this same mentality of whenever something is all you can eat buffet or whatever, you have to feel like you're going to beat the buffet. You have to win, that it's your
Totally.
advantage. And so you have to build the case that, and with the case of a home warranty, if you're in that 7 to 12 years, you keep it for 5 years. Every one of these things is vulnerable. The odds that something is going to go wrong with any of these 18 things over the next 5 years is very high. And many of them would pay for the whole thing if you got to use it.
Right. Is
So
it
I
direct
wonder,
mail?
well, that's direct mail, email, um,
Email.
yeah, both.
Okay.
And that whole this whole mindset here, it's like you plant that seed, it's almost like, oh, I'm not like, it's so far out. It's almost, what would be the resistance that people would have? Like it's when I was building the case for the uh, home warranty, you have to intellectually make it make sense that that you're going to pay $3,500 for 5 years of this, and that you're probably going to be out. The worst case is that you're gonna get the 3,500 at least back in worth of it, right? If you
Right.
use it. And the best case scenario is you save 15,000 uh, or more, right? So it makes sense that it's a prudent investment. That's kind of where you have to. get that.
Here's the interesting thing on this side is you hope you never have to use it.
Absolutely.
On our side, it's, hey, if you're never hacked, if you never, we've done our great job. But if people don't have that fear of being hacked, it's not as compelling. And my partner says
What
some,
what percentage? How prevalent is it? Do you have any data on how what percentage, like how many people per thousand get affected by this
oh man,
or
everyone has a story. And we
yeah,
never go anywhere without someone saying, "Oh, this happened to my daughter. Oh, this just happened to me." I was talking
yeah.
to Lisa Sini the other day,
Uh-huh.
about a year ago or so, and she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, I got this. I thought I was getting called to jury duty, and I got
Mm,
this text message, and I said if you don't show up, and I called the sheriff. I went down to the sheriff's office, it like took up a day of hers because it was a
mm,
scam, saying because people are like, hey, you have an unpaid ticket. If you don't call this number immediately and pay, you're going to jail. There's a warrant for your
mm,
arrest. But what my partner says, he often says, I'm like hospice. By the time they call me, it's too late. And so, we are selling prevention so that you're never
mm,
a victim, right? And
mm.
so the data is strong that someone or they know someone who's been victimized. It was kind of like when I did the concussion thing. I wrote the concussion book. Everyone knew
Mhm.
someone who had been in a car accident or had played football or something and was
Yeah.
suffering from this concussion. And the
Yeah.
same thing here. But it's like, what are you going to do to prevent a concussion? Are you going to stop playing football? So
Mhm.
the big challenge for us is we get the panic phone call, and often it's too late. Like even this client we have right now, it's like, hey, we're just going to tell you to reset everything, get rid of your computers. We're going to put in a firewall. It's going to cost you, this, and this, and it'll be worth it to them because they never want to experience that ever again.
Mhm.
They'll pay like whatever it costs, bill us. I mean, that's where they're at. And
Mhm.
so the question is, how do you get it to where it's compelling? Because it is. I mean, we're
Mhm.
all being hunted right now.
Yeah.
The hackers are in your system right now, yours and
Mhm.
anyone listening. They're in there, and it's just a matter of whether they're going to do something or not. Like I said, they're waiting for some big transaction, a death. When you're emotionally vulnerable. I mean, one of the
Mhm.
craziest one, Dean's part of the Cover Your Six, is the romance scams. The
Oh,
romance scams that turn into a
the
cryptocurrency.
Tinder swindler. I saw
Oh,
on Netflix. Yeah, the Tinder swindler. Uh-huh.
dude, the number of romance scams that people fall for. We know a guy lost $500,000 in a romance scam. I mean, so it's like,
That's a very interesting. I wonder if there's a way, like I look at it, that it's a pretty complex and comprehensive thing to explain all the ways that you're vulnerable and all the things that you're going to need to do to fully build that fortress around yourself. And maybe they don't need to know what happens in Act Three to get in the play. Like, I wonder if there's a way to do something like I think about that people are much more likely to want to protect their kids and then that would be a doorway into explaining all of the other vulnerabilities, or that you want to protect your elderly parents from being taken advantage of. That is a great way to start the conversation, right? Like to compel people to get into this thing where now they're in an opportunity that this is even bigger than you thought, but you have their attention by coming in through the doorway of the three avoidable surprises that take kids, that put your kids at risk.
yeah,
Or
yeah, I think it's a good lead. And it's funny because at first we were Stealth Executive. That was the original name of the company. And it was like, there's no such thing as a standalone executive. Everyone has a
mhm,
family, whether it's parents, whether it's a
yeah,
wife, a spouse,
yeah,
you're an entity and with the supply
yeah,
chain, right? And so how do you protect your most important
yeah,
asset, your family? That's clearly the most important. It's why we go to work. It's why we do what we
yeah.
do. It's for family.
I think I really like this idea of some entry into the conversation because part of the thing, in order in any situation, you hear, especially if it's a complex and it's going to be an ongoing relationship and it's an investment, that people are making like relatively a lot of money, that you've heard people say they need to know you, like you, trust you, and that those words are almost always used in one string. They've got to know you, like you, trust you, and as if that's the destination. And what that doesn't properly revere is the giant leap from not knowing you to knowing you. And then it's a much shorter distance from knowing you to liking you, and an
Right.
even shorter distance from liking you to trusting you. So in the beginning, rather than trying to get people to know you, like you, trust you right up front, is how can you start a conversation and get them to know you? Now they
Yes.
know that you exist. And like doesn't mean like the emotional, oh, I really like Kevin. It's that I agree with what he's saying. He's like-minded to me. I like that. I think this makes sense to me. And then I trust that he's the one that can help me solve these things. But you're the one by bringing awareness to them. It's like the
Right.
Music Man. You the play, the music or the
Yes.
musical, right? Yeah, you got Trouble in River City, and
Yeah.
that starts with T and it rhymes with P, and that stands for pool, right? That they're the whole thing, the band, uniform salesman is getting everybody rallied around the kids are in trouble because of pool. That's the enemy. The way to keep them out of pool halls is let's start a band. And now we're going
76
to need
trombones.
uniforms, right? That's the
Right.
thing. So if you start a conversation with that your kids are vulnerable,
Right.
here's how to, you look at, because we're much more likely to take action to protect our what we feel that we're responsible for, our kids and our parents, that if you start on those two ends, that brings all of the things. I worked with a hypnotist it came to my breakthrough blueprint in London, and we did a book called Hypnotize Your Husband. And it was meant to be a gateway, because the matriarchy is really the gateway to like try new things in a family kind of thing. So we started that with the hypnotize your husband, of how to get your husband to do the things that you want. Remember on the Flintstones when Betty and Wilma were like sleep talking to Fred and Barney, trying to program them to do stuff? That's what it reminded me of, right? But the idea was that when they see, it was a mechanism to teach the general principles of hypnosis and suggestion, and with evidence, things that you could say to your husband and observe that his behavior changed. And that now you've got an experience that hypnotism, there's something to this. Now you've got that it's for bigger things. Do your kids have anxiety? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to quit smoking? Do you want to anything, any change that you want to make, you can apply it, but the light entry into it was hypnotize your husband, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know what it is about but society, we can say hypnotize your husband and everybody go, oh, tee hee hee hee. But you could never say hypnotize your wife or
Right.
hypnotize your kids. You get canceled, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how certain gateway things
And we
are.
did create paper, and it was how to become an effective digital parent.
Hmm,
So this is part of it, but I even like it more like how to become an effective digital mother, right?
hmm,
Because that's even focusing more on what you just
hmm.
mentioned. Hey, these boogeymen are,
Come on
and
now,
this,
it's 2025, digital birthing person. Yeah,
oh, it's true.
yeah. Uh,
Digital person, right? No,
yeah,
but it's
right.
it's like this, the truth, and we just have, hey, the 7 steps or the 8 things you can do today, like simple
Hmm.
things. It don't cost a thing to protect your kids. And we give away my partner's book is called The Secret to Cybersecurity, basically how to protect your family. We give that away for free.
Mhm.
So it's
And
like,
that's kind of the way. That's what I think that you could take the principles of that, but wrap it in a the thing that gives people the manual or the operating system, for protecting their kids. Now they know who you are. And I would almost look that the real thing then becomes over the next 100 days, could you create like a correspondence course that fully educates them about all the ways that they're vulnerable, all the
yes,
things. I
yes,
think
we have.
about you, it'd be interesting this you've seen the State Farm or Allstate commercials where the mayhem
Oh yeah,
guy, yeah, where they're acting out all of the things like that, showing what could happen. And if you're not
right.
covered for this, like mayhem is a good thing, but these surprises could be that same.
Well, I do like that. I mean, the avoidable surprises is
Hmm.
powerful because it is different,
Hmm.
because so, okay, it's like, so what? So there's a threat, the boogeymen are out, they're already in your system. Like, okay, so what? Like, what's the avoidable surprise?
Hmm.
You know, how can you avoid the surprise? Well, derail all kinds of things. I mean, we talk about
Hmm.
derailing the families that we end up dealing with that have been totally hacked. We're
Yeah.
talking about total derailment, everything.
Hmm.
Like they're
Yeah.
locked out. These people, and so just something, a quick thing for your audience is two-factor authentication. Make sure you have that on everything. Two-factor authentication is critical because what happens is these hackers, if you don't have two-factor authentication, which is that annoying number you get texted when you
I
log into
know.
your T-Mobile account, whatever it may be. Like, okay,
Yeah.
here's, and it's annoying. There's no two ways about it. It's a pain. But man, that alone will save more people than anything else because what happens is if there's no two-factor
But what
authentication,
if we went the other way, Kevin? What if we, because I want this too, as I look at that these protections are a hassle to me. What if there is a way that we could position it that how to cover even the sloppiest cybersecurity habits? Like if you just using the same password for everything, or you're using like, and what if there an easier way that's like, I got you, even though you're the problem. You're sloppy. And this is in spite of yourself. We're going to make you
yes,
impenetrable.
it's great. No, that's incredible because that
That's
was
what I really want to hear.
right
That's the
because
take this pill, lose weight. It's
yeah. Yeah, because that's it. People use the same password. I mean,
I
I
don't want
did,
to inconvenience myself in any way to
right.
be more, like that just seems like that there's a big rigmarole that I'm going to have to go through to keep myself like, are we going to have, yeah,
Well, that's the point. You want everything to be easy, one button, it's like you go on
yeah.
Amazon, you just talk to your phone and it ships it. It's like you want it to be that easy. And I think
Mhm.
that's a good idea too, is, how to cover even the most sloppiest
Even the
habit.
sloppiest, even the sloppiest security habits. It's so that then you'd have something. I
Right.
think you'd get attention, and it's really just about starting the conversation. I would think if there was one way to start the conversation and solve one thing, that would be. Do you know what I was thinking about the other day is why every time I turn around, I got to change this 12-digit character capitals. You got to have this super secure thing for the most mundane ways, apps or things or programs that I use. And yet my bank card, I've had the same four-digit pin since the eighth grade picnic. I mean, it's like no change. It just any four numbers will do. Pick your four. It's I don't know. It's crazy. Well, we covered some of your six here. I think the what's your takeaway or what's your thought here from?
Well, I like the idea of the avoidable surprises. I mean, that
Mhm,
language alone
mhm,
is unique and creates some thinking.
Hmm.
And then also, I think going after the parents, helping them be, or the mothers actually, in fact. We had a guy recently message me. We connected with a former FBI guy, and his daughter, 13-year-old daughter, was getting these text messages, from, I think it was like from someone from inside the school. And so that parents do, they get up in arms when it comes to their kids. Of course they
Hmm.
do, right?
Hmm.
They care about most. So I think looking at that, that psychology and then providing that value up front. And maybe this is just one of those businesses where it is reactive. I mean, it
Hmm.
might be where, it's like during the pandemic, people went and hoarded toilet paper, right? Like that was a reaction. All of a sudden, toilet paper became very valuable.
Hmm.
It might just be that kind of business where we're more response
Hmm.
driven. But it's worth testing, I think, the next 100 days
Hmm.
on how can we get people to engage with us and spend the money.
Hmm.
Um, because people do know us now. And we've been focused mostly on Nashville. That's the other piece too, is we went broad for a while. We're gonna
No, it's so good to like you're I look at any expansion plan with something like that is the advantage of like artificially constraining yourself. And Nashville's not a small, I like any of the NFL cities are like that's a great ecosystem that I use because whatever's if you take an hour radius around Nashville, that's plenty of an ecosystem, knowing that once you crack the code you could take that to Atlanta. You could take
yeah,
that to any of the
totally.
NFL cities, right? And roll that out that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's been our focus more recently is because then Scott came from the Nashville field office from the FBI. Wayne
Hmm.
knows everyone in the area from being an attorney here for so many years. And
Hmm.
it's my home as well. So I think focusing regionally. And then these little hinges that can swing big doors, these private bankers that are managing people's
Hmm.
wealth. And Nashville is it's a small, big city still. The banker that called me, she said, "Listen, Kevin, usually there's 6 degrees of separation." She goes, "In Nashville, it's two." She goes, "And I'm one of them." He's basically saying if you help these people, there's a lot more clients coming your way. And even this
Hmm.
client we're helping now,
Hmm.
they're referring people to us. So, it's one of these things where it's just like any business. I mean, we've been at this about a year and a half now. We've come up with a lot of great content, but we do need to focus, and we need to focus on this niche instead of going so broad. Is focus regionally and focus on these high net worth families that are, willing to spend or able or willing to spend 10 to 15 thousand dollars a month. We did get off track for a while. I mentioned earlier, these ultra high net worth folks. We're talking about the billionaires. We got a call from a guy who, he was on the golf course with his buddies, private golf course, and he got a message from his private jet company saying, "Hey, we need $90,000 for fuel." And so he went to go, on his phone at the golf course, went to go send the 90,000, whatever it was, 100,000. Didn't go through, tried it again, didn't go through. So he called the private jet company. He said, "Hey, listen, I'm trying to send over this wire to you guys and it's not going through." And they said, we didn't request a wire from you." And he
Yeah.
instantly went white and he said, "Am I a possible victim? Is my son in college a possible victim?" And the answer is
Yeah.
yes, right? Someone got between them and their supply chain. This happened to be a private
Yeah.
jet company. And so we worked on that, which was like a very expensive,
Fix.
product. So
Yeah. Hmm.
and so we've kind of tailored it back down to focus on sort of that millionaire plus
Yeah.
family that has a private security system, has a typical, security
Hmm.
system in their home and wants that cybersecurity assurance as well.
Hmm.
So, and I love some of the ideas you came up with, especially the ideas of the warranty and the avoidable surprise. I'm definitely going to be using that.
I
And the
love
cover your six. I mean, that's a great little segment that Scott and I could do, like for LinkedIn or whatever.
hmm What if there's one thing that you could say that anybody listening could do to take one step in the direction of making themselves more secure, what would be the
Two-factor authentication, 2FA on
damn it.
everything.
I hate it.
On your Google
Yeah.
Cloud, on your iCloud, on your
Yeah.
Wi-Fi router, two-factor on everything. That's the best you can do. And then
Yeah.
get yourself into a solution. We have some easy button solutions that are $50 a month that provide the antivirus, provides password protection, provides dark web monitoring, data broker
Yeah.
takedown, the insurance policy. So it's basically like LifeLock on steroids. So you can just email me at kevin@stealthfamily.com, and we're happy to provide that easy button solution. It's almost like a multivitamin, that solution. And when I say a multivitamin, I don't know if a multivitamin works, but the fact that I take one tells myself that I'm thinking about my health,
Yeah,
right? It's more of a
exactly.
psychological aspect. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I'm concerned about my health. And so there's an emotional and psychological, even a spiritual aspect to that. Same thing here. Just putting yourself into some sort of cybersecurity solution,
yeah,
it just lets you know that you're thinking about it. And our solution will go on all your kids' devices, up to 50 devices. It gives you incident response 24 by 7. Because the other thing we know is you can't call anyone. 911 won't take your call. They can't help. No one out
right.
there is going to help you. Trust me. But we
Mhm.
can.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, I think we successfully hatched some evil schemes.
I think so, my
Good
friend.
to
It's great.
good to connect.
Yeah, good to see you.
I love that. Thanks, man. I'll
Talk to you
talk to
soon,
you
buddy.
soon.
Take care.